Hey, everybody, welcome to day 5, the final day of the Thrive Through Divorce Challenge. I don't know about you guys, but I am feeling more brilliantly resilient than ever. I feel like in these conversations this week, we have really hit on all the tools of living brilliantly resilient. And I'm hoping that everybody is realizing, like we are, and that we've gotten a lot of feedback too, that these really are tools that go beyond surviving and thriving through divorce. You can put them in play in all aspects of your life and your days.
Yeah, I think that's key to note because, as rotten and lousy as you may be feeling right now, this too shall pass. And you will move forward to another phase of your life. And all of these things, as Kristen said, can be put in play for future, not only challenges, but just every day of your life. So these are tools that you're going to want to hang on to, refresh, review. And I think somebody said before, sometimes things are going to work for you and sometimes they aren't. But that's the beauty of having a multitude of tools and people and resources and tribes. And we are happy to be that for you. So we have a very special guest today.
Who is it, Mary Fran? Who's
We
at
have
the door? Who's
we
in
have our
this room?
own ding dong. We have our own Kristen Smedley here today. So there's no guest aside from Kristen and I. So which explains why we were laughing like a pair of hyenas, because when we have guests, we try to at least put our professional hats on a little bit. But when it's just the two of us, all bets are off. But let me tell you about a little bit about my buddy Kristen Smedley, who I will say publicly, and it's going to be recorded, so I'm going to have to own up to it. I love and admire dearly. Let me tell you a little bit about Kristen. Kristen Smedley knows the value of beginning the day with a healthy attitude, not to mention a plan. Not that it always works, but you got to have a plan.
Yeah.
But her plan involves her approach to challenges, divorce included, and it starts with her miracle mornings. Here, today, Kristen's going to take you through her work with the life changing Hal Elrod book, Miracle Morning, as she takes charge of her potential and her life to thrive through divorce and beyond. You can find Kristen at brilliantlyresilient.net and also at kristensmedley.com. And I'm going to turn it over to my friend and my partner, Kristen Smedley. You go, girl.
Well, thanks, MFB. Okay, you guys. I'm going to go through I'm going to go through the 7 steps of the miracle morning. I'm going to tell you where all this came from and who it is that's behind it. But here's what I want you to really understand. And I promise you this, you might not think, because of where you're at right now and some of the things that I'm going to tell you that the miracle morning involves, you may not believe with your whole entire heart that these outcomes are not only possible but will happen. But I promise you, it happened in my life and it will happen in yours. If you do a version of the miracle morning, it does not have to look exactly like Hal, that I'll talk about in a minute, designed it to be, or the way that I did it. But if you do a version of this, and I wrote them down so I make sure I hit on all of them, you will start each day with a positive mindset. And we talk about this in Brilliantly Resilient all the time. When your mindset is in the right frame of mind, the right direction, that's where things start to improve all over your life. So you will, with the miracle morning, start each day with, at least in the beginning, you're going to go about your day positively. And I giggle at that and laugh, but I know being in the trenches and in the pit of where some of you are feeling right now, that you wake up in the morning and you still feel so heavy that you can't face the day. This is going to be the game changer for you. You're also going to have improved self confidence. We talked about this a few times this week about when your confidence is up, you make better decisions. You can face some of the things like financial spreadsheets in a better frame of mind. So you will have improved self confidence. You're going to keep your goals at the top of your to do list. I don't know if you guys are like me, but the things that I really wanted to achieve always got pushed to the bottom as I was trying to put out fires all over the place and not focus on what I needed to be focusing on. But your goals will stay at the top. And here's one of my most favorite ones: you're going to have more energy. I'm sure there's a big science to this, and you'll have to get the book that I mentioned to really dive deep into it. And we're going to actually dive deep into this later, like in the fall. But there is a science to the fact that you have more energy when you do this miracle morning routine. And you're going to kickstart your alertness in the morning. Now, this mug of coffee kickstarts Kristen. all through the day. But the miracle morning is the first thing I actually do before I even have coffee, if you can imagine that. Okay, so what is the miracle morning and who's behind it? The Miracle Morning was started by, it was a book that Hal Elrod wrote. He's Elrod, Hal Elrod. And it was after, get this, I believe that he had a big car accident. And I think it was like 6 hours, not 6 hours, wait a minute, 6 minutes. He was pronounced dead for 6 minutes. He wasn't Jesus. They didn't bring him back. He was
Six
just
hours is a
Hal.
lot. I was going to say.
Yeah. 6 minutes he was pronounced dead. They revived him, and then he was in a coma for 6 days. And when he came out of the coma, you have to go hear his read his story. He came out of the coma and made a decision. And we talk about this all the time in Brilliantly Resilient. When you make the decision to move from broken to brilliant, that's where the magic begins. And Hal made the decision, and he had to figure out how to go about each day to get his life back that nobody even believed that he was going to survive. So if you're feeling a little broken, just remember Hal Elrod laying there after this horrific car accident that no one thought he'd even survive, right? And then now he's like this mega mogul that is absolutely phenomenal. And we'll share his story later. I want to dive into the Miracle Morning. So here's the things with the Miracle Morning. The what is it called when letters form an acronym? When letters form a
Um,
word?
of course, I can't think of the word now.
I think it's acronym.
Not an anagram. Is it an anagram?
No,
We'll figure
I
it
think
out.
it's okay. Whatever. I think it's
An acronym. Yeah, acronym is
I think it's
each letter
acronym.
stands for something. Yes, an acronym is each letter stands for something.
I can teach you about the miracle morning and mindset, but I have no idea about words. I tend to make words up, but that's another episode. I don't know why I do that. So the acronym, if that's really the word, is SAVERS, SAVERS. I'm going to go over the elements of SAVERS, but that's what you remember. It's almost like I used to look at it as they were saving my sanity. They actually ended up saving my life, these couple of things that I did. So let's go over each one and then we'll dive deep into a few of them. So and I know Mary Fran's going to crack up at this one, but I promise you I do this. The first one is silence.
Oh, sweet Jesus.
Oh
Okay.
my God. None of it, but I do have an element of silence in my morning. So just zip it right there. We're going to skip that for a minute. So it's silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, and don't be grimacing at some of these people. We're going to go through each of them. They're all important. Reading and scribing or writing, but they needed an S. The W wasn't going to work. Because I think scribing is a cool word anyway compared to writing. Okay, so now I will also say that Hal suggests that, Hal, he's my buddy. He suggests that you do, it's an hour and you do each of these for like 10 minutes. And I don't know about you, but there's a rare morning anymore that I have a full hour. So some of mine are like together as soon as I wake up, and some like exercise I do a little later, depending on my week, especially when we started having homeschool and it was throwing everything for a loop. But if you can start your day with as many of these as possible, it really is a game changer. So let's start with silence. So the thing that he says is create and strengthen the serenity that lies within you. So this was shocking to me that if I just stop and do nothing and sit quietly, it's amazing the focus that before I even get out of bed in the morning. And this isn't, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm laying in bed when the alarm goes off and sit there for about 5 minutes and do and say nothing. I actually set one alarm. I didn't used to get up this early, but I do set one alarm for 5 and then one for 5:15. And when the 5 goes off, that's how long I sit and just do nothing. It's actually kind of cool. And then at 5:15, that's my one that's like, okay, get up and it's time to do the rest of this.
So I want to jump in here really quickly because I tell women all the time that you have to shush your brain. So
Hmm.
if you have trouble quieting your brain, you can literally say that, make that sound, shh, and it's amazing how it calms your brain down. So I know it's hard sometimes for people to stop the running thoughts, but literally make that sound to yourself and remember what how you did that to your kids and all that, and when your parents did it to you, shh, and it really does. There's something about that sound that just calms the brain waves. So that might be a little tip to get into that for a few minutes.
Do you know what's funny too, Mary Fran? When I was reading about, studying the miracle morning and it said silence, I was like, I had also been reading a lot of stuff about people that I know there's different schools of thought, and this worked for me. There's other people that, like Mel Robbins says, when the alarm goes off, it should be on the other side of the room and you should jump out of bed.
Oh,
I,
no, 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 no,
as
no.
much as I am high energy and a lunatic during the day and do 95 different things, I when I that used to stress me out to think about I have to jump. So when Hal says silence is part of the savers, I'm like, oh, so I do it right away. That's the other thing. You can mix up this routine, but I do the silence thing right away. Now here's my favorite one we're going to go into next, and it's A, and this is I actually do this right away. You can do this later or you can do it while you're exercising, but it's the affirmations. And this I was the most resistant to, the most like, really? Like the secret, like really what you say into the universe is going to happen. And honestly, in the 4 years I've been doing this, I did, because I'm a nerd, do a ton of research about affirmations. And all I can tell you is I can send out the stuff that I've read, and I was shaking my head the whole time in doubt. But looking at my life, and all the things that have happened are the affirmations, most of them that I started doing 4 years ago when I was just simply, when I found this and was simply trying to save my life and my sanity. So the way that the affirmations go, though, and I took a few notes to make sure that I get this out there correctly, because you can't have an affirmation that says that your ex-husband will fall off a cliff. Apparently, that's against the rules of
That would be
affirmation.
wrong. That would not be very affirming.
That may be some other, like, hocus pocus. And if you know of a challenge with that, I would love to be in it because I think that would be hilarious. However, we're staying nice here. The affirmations are supposed to be positive. It says that they are statements that build your confidence, re-energize you, ignite your self-conscious to go after your goals. That's the reason behind affirmations, and they're brief phrases that provoke positive thoughts, attitudes, and actions. So, interestingly enough, right before we came on, I was telling Mary Fran about my week with my daughter, who's going to be a junior. She's about to turn 17. We were at this big national basketball tournament. And I was saying, well, she won't watch this, so she won't be embarrassed because she'll never know. But I was telling Mary Fran that yesterday, in between games, we had a very late game, and her and I ordered food, laid in bed, and watched the Gilmore Girls, one of our favorite things to do we haven't done in a while. And she actually crawled into my bed, and we laid there together watching it. And I will say, without tears, um, 4 years ago, I was worried. I was scared to death that my relationship with them was going to get completely destroyed by the person I was in this divorce with, because things were going off the rails. And one of my affirmations was in regards to that. I think that the actual statement was, my relationship with my children is bulletproof. And I just said that, even through, I'm telling you, and I'm sure a lot of you can totally put yourself in this place. I was in sobbing, ugly cry as we were going through things where people were trying to destroy my relationship with my kids. And I said it not even just in the miracle morning. I was doing it. It's every time that I would be fearful of it in family court. I would constantly say that in my head, and it completely shifted how I communicated in family court, how I communicated with my kids. Because I think that a lot of you can understand when you come from the place of fear that, oh my God, he's going to totally turn the kids against me, and this is going to be a nightmare. My ex-in-laws are going to get involved, and they're never going to, and I built this for all these years. When you tell yourself that, it starts to go downhill. But when you start telling yourself, nope, our relationship is bulletproof. I've made better choices in conversations with them and everywhere, that they were concerned. Even in the shared custody agreements, I made better choices. Instead of, what's that thing about when you hold on to something so tight instead of, easing up a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, the affirmations work. I did it for what I wanted my life to look like. That I was one of them was, financially independent and abundant. I've said that for 4 years in my miracle morning routine, and I just moved into this house with no mortgage, on my own 2 feet. I am financially sound. I should actually add I am a bazillionaire in my affirmation. Matter with me. I could have just been a bazillionaire
Well,
all
you
this
know what?
time.
I think that you just hit on something that is so important because we have to prepare our mind to do exactly what you said, to make the choices that are going to get us where we want to go. Because if you don't do that, what your mind then does is start, you have to give your mind a direction because it's
Perfect.
constantly working. You have to give your mind a direction because if you don't give it a direction, it's going to spend its time thinking up possible disaster scenarios and planning for that. And that is a complete waste of your energy. So you do have to give yourself that direction. And why not make it the direction of, I am strong. I am empowered. I and make them, make them personal about you too, and do those things that Kristin said, and that gives your mind that place to focus, so that the decisions and the thoughts and everything that comes in goes towards that. I believe me, I was never a believer either, but I have an example to give you when you talk about the visualization one that is just freaking hilarious and proves the point. So these affirmations are essential.
Awesome. Well, I'm just doing one more point and then let's go into visualization because there is, I think, if I'm remembering right, Joel Osteen's latest book is I Am. And he talks all about the power of like, I am a child of God. I am, as you're facing all these storms and just the power in that belief. And like you said, I love that. Give your mind direction. Your mind needs that. Because
Yeah.
otherwise we're sitting in the pit. And I think that we also have to stop one more time and say that we get it. We get it that some of this sounds to you like, are you kidding me? My world is crumbling. He's off the rails. Things are, I know, because I've absolutely 1000% been there. I still don't even have all my real hair back yet. It all fell out. But this was the beginning. Does doing affirmations and sitting in silence and doing all the savers work right away? No, unfortunately, there is no accelerator on it. Do you still have to do all the other work that you're facing that we talked about this week, the financial, the getting yourself together? Yeah, you do still have to do all that, but when you start the day with these things, it actually does put the accelerator on it. All
Mhm.
right, let's jump into visualization so I'm not holding too much on one thing. Let's hear your example of it real quickly.
So here's my example of visualization. I was never a believer in this kind of thing. I always thought that oh, yeah, sure, I'm going to visualize something and it's going to happen. Well, a number of years ago, pre COVID and all that, Dave and I went to see Sinbad, the comedian, who, by the way, is hilarious. If you ever have a chance to see him, he's hilarious and he's amazing. So, theater seats, they're tiny and you're crunched in. And we were in the middle of a row, which we both hate because we want an escape plan. We were in the middle of this row, but the seat next to me was empty, which was, oh, it was amazing. I thought, oh my gosh, I'll be able to sit here. I'll be able to, kind of spread out and be comfy. And just that quickly, my mind went, oh, come on, who are you kidding? Any minute now, some giant human is going to come down the row, squeeze their way in, and plop down right next to you. And that is exactly what happened. Some no, I mean nothing. Just a big person, a big human, had to come down this row, squeezed himself right into this seat next to me, and was just enormous. It was like God smacked me in the head and went, "Oh, is that what you want? Okay, here it is. Here you go. That's what you asked for." So that's my visualization story, and that moment has never left me. And again, it doesn't always happen that quickly, but that was honest to God. That was like God saying, "You asked for it.
There
Here
you
you
go.
go."
So be careful what you visualize is the lesson.
Exactly.
I wonder if that's the science also with oh my gosh, who is it that wrote the book about the power pose? It's almost like when
Oh,
you do that.
Amy Cuddy. Amy Cuddy.
Yes. And
Yes.
you are like it's like you're visualizing yourself with power taking over. I'm telling you, I did all this. I was oh my God, I was such a mess when all this began. But and the other thing with visualizing is I had a vision board that I actually when I was going through this week to get ready for today, I'm like, oh, in the move, it's packed in this closet somewhere. I got to bring it out and I actually have to adjust it because some of the things that are on there I already did. I did the TED Talk. I did the best-selling author. Hello, twice with Brilliantly Resilient and Thriving Blind. A lot of the things on there I did achieve because I look at it every day. Like Mary Fran said, it gives you that your brain direction. So I would start in the morning with the affirmations and the goals, But then having that every day where I'm working and spending my time and making choices whether to put another funny meme on Facebook or maybe reach out to somebody to sponsor the summit, like those kinds of things. It just keeps your mind focused. And here's an interesting one too that I made sure I made a note about. I'm saying, oh, I was visualizing being on the TED stage and visualizing us hitting bestseller on Amazon. You guys, I can't tell you how many months I would just visualize in the morning myself having a productive day. I mean, let's face it. Sometimes that's all that you can even manage. I love on Mary Fran's daughter Laura. A lot of times on Brilliant, we have Brilliance Brags on Thursdays, and she'll have got 3 loads of laundry done, and everybody's still alive.
It's a win.
It's a win.
It's
It's
a
a win,
win.
and you visualize these things in the morning, and then it's just unbelievable how these things come to fruition. But definitely acknowledge those days when, look, I just need to get through the day and be productive. Or there are days when I'm like, I just need to see myself making the phone call to my attorney, facing the hearing that's about to come up, and then hugging my kids at night, and that's it. That was my
Yeah.
visualization
The
for the
bar
day.
doesn't have to be up here every day. The bar, you have to respect where you are and honor that, and fill in those blanks appropriately for where you are. That doesn't mean you don't strive for things, but respect where you are, because you don't want to set yourself up to fail either. You're not going to say visualize yourself doing a TED talk and get one next week. That's not going to happen. It'll happen eventually, but there's work to be done,
Oh,
like
there's
you said.
calling. Okay, so let's we're gonna go real quick through the last few, and then like I said, we will follow up, and we're putting together a super fun deep dive into this because it was so life changing for me and millions of other people with the Miracle Morning. The E is exercise. Now, there's probably a lot of you that feel that's the last thing that you have time for, energy for, and whatever for, and it's falling to the bottom of your list. And for me, that happened as well. I mean, when people say, oh, self-care and the oxygen coming down in the airplane and you have to put the mask on yourself first, a lot of those people, let's face it, have not been in the throes of implosions all over the place with all the stuff that happens with divorce. However, and I still get stuck in this where I'm like, oh, I didn't work out for 30 minutes today. Now I'm like, if I get 10 minutes of just like in my new house, there's a neighborhood across the street. And if I just run or walk through that neighborhood, it takes me 10 minutes. And that I say to myself, that's perfect. It gives my mind a chance to get out of the spirals that it gets in. Sometimes I put on a really kicking playlist, and the poor neighbors over there, I belt out Eminem like a champ. Sometimes I'll listen to a podcast, and sometimes I use my silence time. Then it's just 10 minutes. And then there's other days, like yesterday when I was at the basketball tournament, I was at the National Harbor and found a trail. I thought I was going for a 20-minute run. I ended up for a 45-minute run because I insisted on getting to the top of this observation thing. Then I had to come all the way back. But the point is, exercise for me frees up my mind. It gives me something else to focus on. And here's one tip: do something in terms of exercise that you are not good at, that you have to really focus on. I tried hot yoga. Right when my hair was all falling out, somebody said, why don't you try hot yoga? And I'm like, I can't do yoga. I look like an idiot doing yoga. I can do all kinds of sports, but there's something about like bending and twisting that I can't do. But I tried it anyway, and I would spend an hour trying not to die or look like an idiot because I knew some women in my town in that in that class. And when you spend that time trying something like that, just watching and focusing on the instructor, and I mean, plus it's so good for you, right? But it freed my mind again from those spirals that I would get into. And Mary Fran, you're a fan of yoga, right?
I am, yeah, and but I think you hit exactly on you hit the nail on the head there. Again, this is not something that you have to put the pressure on yourself to do well. You don't have to do it well. Just just try it. Try something different. Move. It's really funny. I got a bunch of grandkids now. I used to exercise and walk regularly. I don't get to do that all the time now. If I tussle with them and roll each other around and we run around the backyard for a while, that's exercise. It's moving. You have to move your body. You cannot sit and dwell in this constant space of things running around. And when you move your body, different things work to shift your gears. I think that's really important.
And I know that Mary Fran knows from my own self, if I go a few days without getting out and moving, I'm just not I'm not right.
Yeah,
I don't
I
release
agree.
all of that. And I start to get like a little, and there's actually, I wrote down that I'm sure that a lot of people can cite a lot of research behind exercise, but it says if you exercise in the morning, it significantly improves your energy, confidence, and emotional wellness. These are all the reasons I started doing all this. I'm like, that's what I need to fix. So let me just do it anyway. So, okay. The next one, real quick, is reading, to spend a few minutes reading in the morning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry to tell you that this is not the trashy novels. This is not the beach read. And oh my God, last week I had the greatest beach read. However, this is, Hal recommends self-help books. This is how, I came to know the Miracle Morning. And I should have taken a picture. Maybe I'll take a picture and put it on the Brilliant Resilient community later. Next to my bed, on the one side, on the one end table, there are stacks of all the books that I would go through in these past couple of years just to get. I mean, one of the biggest ones was Max Lucado's You'll Get Through This. And every time there's a storm, I go back to that one. So much so that I actually made a note that maybe we should do a little reading group on Max Lucado's You'll Get Through This, because that was reading that and having a group that went through that with me was a huge game changer for this. But I've done everything. I go back to Bob Berg has been on our show. He's become a
Hmm.
friend of ours, The Go Giver. And I always recommend that one because I feel like when we're in this pit of divorce or other pits, I sometimes feel like I'm asking for so much help from people, and that's like a little bit against my DNA. I like to be out there giving, so I go back and read The Go Giver. But we should, maybe we'll put a reading list together
Yeah.
of.
And I think the other thing about books like that is you can often just open them, just open it up to a spot and see where you land, because I can't tell you how often I've done that. And the spot that I land is just what I needed for that day. So the beauty of those is you don't have to go through every single page, every single chapter. You can just open them up and see if something hits you for that day. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to read for, an hour. Just pick something up and get yourself, again, give your mind that direction.
And was one of the first ones that I did was Jen Sincero's "You're a Badass," because I
Oh
wanted
yeah,
to
yeah.
be back to feeling like a badass. I'm like, well, how am I
Hmm.
going to get there? And then that book was so fast and funny that was a big helper. And then there's this other one that you can pick up called "Brilliantly Resilient,"
Yes, it's amazing. I hear it's brilliant.
and that one is not a hard read.
That is not a hard read. That is literally the book that you can pick up, open it up, and go, okay, here's the brilliance bit for today, because that's what it is. We kept it super short and to the point. You don't have time to read anything that's going to kill your brain when you're in
No,
crisis.
no. Okay, and then the final is scribe, which we already said is writing. And Hal suggests that you start in the morning with three things that you're grateful for and three things that would make it a great day. Super, super simple. Start there. And then you can also add in your affirmations if you want. I actually did that. I wrote them out and then I would read them every day. And I did a little notebook. Well, then I think I've gone through about seven now, these little notebooks next to my bed. And I would just write like what was on my mind and whatever, just I guess to get it out of my mind. And sometimes I go, or I'll have like an idea while I'm doing all that. I'll have an idea for poor Mary Fran for another project that we can
Another
do.
idea. Oh, good.
Yeah, she knows that I'm in my
Another one.
early morning mode because it's like, whoa, 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 crazy stuff is happening.
Somebody throw water on her. But do you know what the beauty of writing is? And I am sure there is a scientific study about this too. And this is the beauty of writing down affirmations and what you're grateful for. The physical act of writing. So don't do this. I would suggest don't do this on a computer. Use your
Yeah.
little, your little pen, your little pencil, your little notebook or whatever, and actually write, because the physical act of doing that helps your body and your brain absorb it in a whole different way.
Yeah.
So, you got a lot of things firing there that help you put these things in your head. And I am the last person who believes in hocus pocus and woo woo. I really, in terms of, oh, it's all going to be great. No, yeah, no, no, I don't go that route. But all of these things that Kristin talked about are so important in, again, giving your mind a direction. Your mind needs to focus. And if you don't give it the right things to focus on, it'll focus on the wrong things. And that's where you're going to go. It's where you're going to
Yeah.
end up.
And actually, to that very point, one of the things on my list is to wrap this up. I just pulled out some things that Hal mentions in the theory and the research behind the miracle morning. He says doing this will free yourself from ruminating on your past failures.
Yeah.
Because well, that's what we all do. Like, oh, or like the me, like the oh, and he did this, and this is where it went wrong, and I'm not responsible, or he's gonna do this, and you just can't. That can't happen in your head while you're doing these other things: the gratitude, your goals, your I ams, all those affirmations. So there you go. That was a perfect segue into this. And then there's just two more points I want to make. I'm going to skip over some of this for later. Um, he says that you need to, in the midst of all of this, to make this really wonderful, surround yourself with a healthy tribe. And
Oh my
honestly,
gosh.
before I even met, this all started happening to me before Mary Fran and I even met. And I'm lucky enough that my high school soccer team, I think I've mentioned this before. And I mentioned at the beginning of the week, I went back to playing soccer because that's when I was happiest, to get my mind better. My high school soccer team, we have been in a group text for years when we reconnected. And when my hair was falling out and he had gone off the rails and everything was horrible, we were the group text became a Saturday morning conference call for weeks where my friends would just say, what can I do to support you? And it was everything from like, I was upset about the kids, and my one friend that is a administrator in a school system said schools have things in place. Call them. That was one of the biggest game changers for me, to call my school and tell them to put some things in place for my kids. But my point is that tribe, having people around you, and it doesn't. I mean, that's a half a soccer team. It doesn't have to be that many people. I mean, for the past, in COVID, it was for me. It was Mary Fran. Every morning, I'm like, oh my god, because he went off the rails again, and then there was all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, and she would help me unpack all of the, okay, can we control this, can we control that, what can we really do, having a healthy people around you is one of the biggest game changers. Not like, and I look, some of my friends, I love them, absolutely love them to death, but when they're sitting there going, oh, you poor soul, I'm so sorry this is happening to
And
you.
that's not
That's
helping.
fun for a minute, and you need that sometimes, but for the most part, you need the people that are going to help you move forward too.
Yeah.
Um, so have a healthy tribe. And then the final thing I'll say is this whole process makes things happen with goals instead of passively waiting for them to happen. So if you're sitting there, and I
Mm.
did that too, like I wish I was 5 years down the road and my finances are okay and all of that, and I want to get there. But if you're not going to take any of the steps to change your mindset, set your goals, find people to help you achieve them, find the tools you need to do it, and bring your kids along, it's not going to happen. You're going to sit there and passively wait. And in 5 years, you'll be sitting there still going, oh man, I hate divorce.
That's Kristen's Eeyore voice. So we say this all the time in Brilliantly Resilient. You have to make a decision. Are you just visiting this place of pain and yuck, or are you going to unpack your bags and live there? That does not mean that anything changes overnight. But again, it's giving your mind that direction. And these steps are perfect. And I can attest to the fact that Kristen was a different person 5 years ago, a completely different person, and not in a good way.
Yeah.
And I don't mean I just mean like sad and defeated and
I
and
wasn't me. I
not
was 100%
confident.
opposite of this is who I
Exact.
was
This is who you are. This
before.
is who you are. But she had to get back to that. And when she finally made that commitment and took all those steps that she said, it's direction. You pick your direction, and then you do the things one step at a time, one action step at a time. And she look at her. I mean, this is who she is now, and she was not this person 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it is possible.
Yeah. So, like I said, Miracle Morning was probably, it was in the top three, if not the top thing that got me out to start the journey out of the pit. It did not, nothing, there's not one thing that I can say yanked me out of that pit. It was definitely a ladder I had to climb with support from a lot of people to help me get there. But this was one of the biggest ladders that came into that pit to help me get out. And now Miracle Morning is actually, I mean, it's a several million people movement, and it's a movie now that you can stream online. But I would recommend getting the book first and listen to podcasts that Hal Elrod talks on. Oh my God, he is just the kindest, nicest, most real and funny person. And we may be having some announcements coming up soon about how his work is going to intertwine with ours. So
We hope so. We hope
get to
so.
know him. Good stuff.
So I think this is it. I think this is the end of day 5 of the Thriving Through How to Be Brilliantly Resilient Through Divorce Challenge. It has been profound for me, even though I've not experienced that, because everything that we talked about throughout this whole journey, again, these are tools that you will carry with you, and you'll be able to, take them on through your divorce journey and beyond. And they're also things that you'll be able to pass down to your kids. Skills and tools that you'll be able to give them to help them meet challenges. So thank you all for joining us. I'm going to turn it back to my buddy Kristin and thank her for sharing her personal experience, because I know it was a hard time for her, but like I said, look at her today. So do what she says. I won't say that all the time, but I'm saying it
I
today.
know, right? Woo! Let's rewind that and play that again. Thanks everybody for being a part of this. Like I said, believe me, I know what it feels like to feel broken in divorce, but I also know the brilliant side of all the work that these all of our brilliant guests this week have talked about. It's not easy. Some of it's easier than other things, but I appreciate that you took this step, this action to move from broken to brilliant. And I promise you that if you follow all the stuff that everybody talked about, get the Miracle Morning, and honestly, no kidding aside, get the book Brilliantly Resilient, because it is a fast read and it gives you even more action steps on the stuff that was talked about this week of how you can move on as well. And then stay in touch with us. Follow, go on brilliantlyresilient.net and get on our email list. If nothing else, every Monday when you get a little bit of brilliance in your email, it starts off your week in a positive way. Just like with Miracle Morning, you're going to start each day in a positive way. And then stay tuned to the Brilliantly Resilient community on Facebook, and you'll get all kinds of positivity in your news feed. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks all. Bye.